like whether I like it or not, like I do put a lot of weight into looking a certain way and feeling more comfortable about the way that I look. And I think that bodybuilding has been the first thing that's kind of turned it into something a little more positive. Like it's all, in the past it's always been how far away can I get myself from being that fat Asian kid? Whereas now it's like I'm not running away from something negative anymore. I'm actually working towards just improving every day. Then, again, the way that I think about it is kind of like, or the way that I've come to think about it now is that, like, today I'm exactly where I can be. There's nothing I can do that's going to change this moment. But tomorrow I can be a little bit better.
Love that.
And then when tomorrow comes, I'm exactly where I am, and then the next day I can be a little bit better. And for me, it's like that's just kind of like come to be what I understand my meaning of life to be.
Listeners of the podcast that have been here since the inception will know that voice, or if you've gone back and listened to some of our earlier episodes, you'll know that to be Chris Tan, also known as Shredded Tofu on Instagram. It was an awesome experience to have Chris back on the podcast for episode 18. I wanted to bring on a repeat guest, and considering we're still in some form of lockdown in places of the world, and I can't exactly get overseas to interview a lot of people. We're doing some online stuff, but I also want to bring on some locals back into the studio as well to have a chat. So today's episode was a Q&A. We got some questions from you guys on Instagram, and we went through as much of them as we could in the time. There's a wide variety of topics that we discuss in this episode. We initially start off with just a bit of a chat about lockdown and how we found training during that time, how it potentially affected our mental health. And then we dive into some of your questions related to the intricacies of dieting, whether to cut or to bulk first, talk about supplements for vegans specifically. And I asked Chris why he chooses bodybuilding, even when we know there's some detrimental effects on the body and on the psychology, and also chat a little bit about Chris's take on purpose in life and what brings him fulfillment. So it's a banger episode. It's one of my favorite ones to record because it's that kind of more relaxed, bro kind of chat, and just a bit of a Q&A. So if you do like this format, hit me up. Let me know if you want to see another one, or if you've got a specific guest you want to hear me do it with, and we'll crack on with that. But hey, let's get straight into this episode. There's a lot to go through. Make sure you listen to the end, and if you do want to skip to any particular question, I'll make sure that's listed in the show description for you as well. This is episode 18 with Chris Tan. You are listening to the Vegan Body Coach podcast, all about optimizing your strength, fitness, and physique through a plant-focused diet. My name is Jackson Burton, and I'm a nutrition and training coach for vegans, the plant-centric, and plant-curious. I'm sitting down with athletes, experts, and influencers around the world to inspire you to create your best vegan body yet. Righto, Vegan Body Coach family, we are back in the podcast studio in person, which is a dream because we've been doing some online stuff, with the man Chris Tan, now known as Shredded Tofu.
Yes.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. Good to be back. Really good to be back.
Yeah, I mean, you're the first repeat on the podcast, which is super cool. Given you're the first one, I think it's fitting to have you on again as the first repeat. Cool. And it's your podcast. I mean, your podcast downloads was the highest for a long time. And then it got blown out of the water by the Eric Helms episode.
Yeah, no surprise. Like, if anything, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I'd be extremely surprised.
Yeah.
And like almost disappointed if like that episode didn't.
Totally. It would be a shame if not many people heard that episode.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I think it was like within the first day, it had like overtaken all the other downloads. Yeah. It was just like, because he shared it on a story, and then people were like, oh, Eric's talking about vegan protein. Yeah. I need to listen to this. And people who aren't vegan would listen to it because they want to understand, like, what's this whole thing about?
Definitely. Yeah.
What's this vegan craze that's going on? And these people claiming that they can perform better and recover better and all these things. So I'm sure there would have got a lot of, like, non-vegans listening to that, which is really amazing because probably the majority of the listeners to this podcast are vegan.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, man, your podcast has some good high downloads, man. I think it's probably got something to do with it's got like shredded in the title.
Yeah, maybe.
People are like, wait, what? Shredded? Okay, I want to listen. How do I get shredded?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, well, I've got a question for you first. I mean, this is going to be a bit of a Q&A, guys. So, we'll do some questions with Chris here. But I've got a question. What's with the name change? On the first episode, you were Shredded Cabbage.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, I think at the start, you know, and this would have been kind of like the early days of being vegan when I kind of came across, you know, when I chose that name. And the reason was because, like, I was like, well, you know, like, I'm vegan, so like somewhere in there should be a vegetable or you know, some sort of vegan food, like
yes, of
a
course.
food that's obviously vegan.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, you know, like I guess the goal, you know, like for a lot of people is to get lean and shredded and that sort of thing. So I was like, oh, what kind of vegetables often served shredded? And I was like, oh, shredded carrots, like shredded potatoes, shredded, you know, I was like, oh, you know, like, oh, shredded cabbage, you know, like, yeah, it seems reasonable. Yeah. And I think like at the start, I actually didn't eat much tofu at all. And so kind of down the line, like, I kind of clicked, and I guess like, there's a really good good dish that you can get at like Chinese restaurants and stuff, which is like the spicy shredded tofu in like chili oil.
Oh,
and it's,
okay.
It's really just like, they call it shredded tofu, but it's kind of like the bean curd sheets, but cut really thinly into those strips.
Yeah, for sure.
And then like I was like, oh man, like this is really good. And then one day I clicked and I was like, well, tofu is like A, it's higher protein.
Yes.
B, like I eat it a lot more than I do cabbage.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, you know, like
It
that's
makes
pretty
sense.
cool. Yeah. And then you know, like with training and coaching more people around the you know, around the kind of body recomposition and kind of like muscle gain and getting shredded kind of thing, I was like, oh, like maybe one day, like it sounds pretty cool, like Team Tofu.
Oh,
You know, like,
gotcha.
I was like,
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I guess Team Cabbage. No, it's not the same, you know.
It's definitely not the same.
You need that alliteration. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, so
man.
that's kind of it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I think it probably suits you a little better.
Yeah.
Oh, they're both great.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I like that, man. Team
Cool.
Tofu.
Yeah, Team Tofu.
Very good, very good. All right, man. Well, what else has been going on, man? And it's been, I think we last chatted January or February. It was a while ago, and so since then we've had a lot going on, and obviously everyone knows that the whole world's going through the same thing.
Yeah.
But how did you know, what was your like lockdown experience like, man?
So the first one, I kind of went into it thinking like, oh, cool, you know, like I'm going to do something every day. I'm going to track my macros, I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. And like, I think I probably, I guess I wasn't really expecting it to be as long as it was, first of all. And then, yeah, I feel like just those expectations on myself were a little bit unrealistic.
Right. That you were going to stay strict to like diet okay.
Exactly. And so like I kind of burnt out after the first couple weeks, and just wasn't really in it, which was okay. Like I think big thing for me, was that came out of that first lockdown was kind of like giving myself permission to do as little as possible.
Yeah, man.
You know, because I think, you know, going into it thinking that I was going to be a really, you know, willpower kind of giant, and not really experience any kind of like negatives from it.
Yeah,
it was just kind of unrealistic.
Totally.
Yeah.
So did you? So in terms of, you know, your diet and training, how was that affected for you?
So like the plan was kind of to do like a little bit of a cut going into it, which didn't really happen.
No.
I kind of I did lose a bit at the start, probably a good like 3 kilos, but then it kind of like went up a bit and kind of just hovered around there until the end of it. Yeah.
I mean, we had our 8-week cut club like fat loss program running.
Yeah, right.
And it was like week 4, and then we went into lockdown. And I said to the guys, I was like, look, everyone's going to experience this lockdown differently, and some people are going to thrive in this situation, and they're going to be I don't know, they're going to be busy and they're going to be bang on with their nutrition and they're going to be, you know, maybe a lot of them are still working if they're essential workers and whatnot. But then for majority, it's like, hey, this is probably not a great time to be dieting. Yeah. You're at home, you're surrounded by food, like you're with family. Like these are not great times that you want to be piling on more stress. So it's like, let's come back to maintenance and we can come back to this at another stage, right?
Yeah.
And I think psychologically and emotionally, everyone deals with the lockdown as well, like very differently. Like, you know, some people, you know, again, thrive in that situation. They're being really productive. They may be working on projects at home and all these things. They may be training in the garage. And then other people would just like feel absolute blah about the whole thing and potentially, you know, have some like depressive symptoms during that time because, you know, they're lacking socialization. They don't have that same community aspect of maybe going to the gym or, you know, these things. Yeah. Did you have any, like, how was your mindset during the time, man?
So the first one, again, I think like at the start, I kind of had this, you know, like goal and idea of being perfect essentially.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, like I was proud enough to kind of be very disciplined with it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I was, then, you know, suddenly, switch kind of flicked and it was suddenly like, well, I'm not okay anymore, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. And I think again, just, it's a real strange time because, I think for me, and like the mental health side of things is so, you know, such a big, priority for me. And it was like, I think a lot of people I talked to as well kind of, felt pretty bad about it, but they kind of went into it, or they kind of like, I kind of describe it as almost trivializing their own kind of mental struggle by doing the whole like, you know, someone out there probably has it worse than me kind of thing.
Right, I see. Yeah, man.
And like, I think that, yeah, like it's good to acknowledge that, you know, you do have something to be grateful for.
Yes.
But like at the end of the day, you know, like something I like to say a lot is that, you know, my world started when I was born and it's going to end when I die.
Right.
And so like I'm the center of my universe. I'm the meaning of my life. And so any problem that's big enough to affect kind of the way that I perceive the world and all that kind of thing, like is big. And I shouldn't feel like I have to, you know, like downplay it by saying like, oh, you know, there are starving kids in Africa, that kind of thing.
Totally.
Because yes, there are, but until, you know, like if this thing has enough power to really affect kind of, you know, the enjoyment and value that I get from life, then I think it needs to be acknowledged and kind of given the time of day. To kind of overcome it.
It needs to be acknowledged, and you have to be able to, you have to give yourself time to feel those feelings and to embrace those feelings, and maybe not to just suddenly just say, oh, I'm feeling emotional, I'm feeling bad, or I'm feeling negative. It's like, try to push that away and try to think of something good or whatever. It's like, no, let's just sit in that. Let's be mindful about it. And then maybe you can come to the point where you're like, okay, whatever the reason I'm feeling this way, I can now take action on that to improve it. And then you can have the perspective of saying, hey, look, maybe this isn't the worst thing in the world, and I can look at it from maybe a top-down view and go, all right, cool, like people do have it worse off, or like, yeah, just seeing like you said, being grateful for the things that you do have. And like, it's like I do my daily 5-minute journal, which is literally just a gratitude journal. Cool. And I just write down 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. I mean, I don't do it every day, but it's like, that's a perfect way for me to start each day. Because even if I have a wake up and initially I'm having a shit day straight away, do my 5-minute gratitude, bam, 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 3 things I'm grateful for. It's like, it's pretty good. Like, life's pretty good. Even if things are going pretty rough, it's like, you can definitely find the things you're grateful for. But I think that's a great point, man. Not downplaying the things that are actually affecting your life and giving them time and maybe seeking out help. Awesome, man. And then I saw a post you did the other day in regards to your body weight. So you're a bit of a gaining phase right now? Yeah, because you said like you've reached 20 kilos plus stage weight. And I'm looking at this photo going, what that? Like, what do you look like on stage? Like, because this is like your delts are still popping out. There's not a lot of fluff there.
Honestly, man, like my arms and like delts, they tend to stay pretty lean.
Yeah.
Midsection, like again, I'll give myself credit because I think that, you know, it's very easy to just kind of like be like, oh, you know, I'm fluffy here and there and there. But like, yeah, I think it's probably it's definitely the leanest I've been at this body weight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that, definite improvements have been made, which is really cool.
Cool,
like,
man.
I guess it's something that, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people like kind of the idea of like being humble about things and stuff. Like I think that being able to acknowledge that you're doing something good is really
totally.
cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, just without kind of just being all about that.
Especially New Zealand culture though. We're all like, oh, who can be the most humble? Like, you know what I mean? Like if anyone's like, being too proud, it's like, yo, cut that person down. You got to be humble, and then it gets probably too far to the point where we're just like downplaying.
Do we do anything well?
Yeah, exactly. You got to acknowledge where you're crushing it and where you're, you know. So it's been a bit of a gaining phase for you, and it's cool because you said you've potentially made some great progress there, and this is given the current climate, and this is given the 2 lockdowns I've been through. And I think people get this mindset of like, man, lockdown ruined everything for me this year, and 2020 is a write-off. It's like, what? Like 6 weeks or like 8 weeks of your year is ruined everything. And even and this is in terms of like their entire life, but like even in terms of body composition, it's like, okay, cool, 8 weeks. Like maybe, okay, you put on 2 kilos, 1 kilo of that is body fat, or you maybe lost 5 kilos on your squat. It's like all of that stuff is so temporary. So you can bring that back in like a matter of weeks. It's like people just put so much stress on themselves or pressure on themselves to uphold this standard when life is stressful. It's like, no, just let those things happen, and you know how to get back to that position, and you can do it again, no problem. But you know, I think people have just got this mindset of like 2020 is a write-off. It's like, man, you can still crush 2020.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like I think another kind of thing that I've come to value a lot is the idea of like not really chasing people, places, or things to get your happiness from. Yeah, man. And again, it's something that's very much easier said than done, because I think that everyone has something they want to achieve, and it's very easy to kind of be very focused on that and say that, well, if I get that, that's what's going to, bring me happiness, that side of things. And I think that like the interesting thing is like everyone's gone through a lockdown, a global pandemic, and that's pretty cool in a lot of ways. Like, and no matter like, in the moment they might be worse off as far as physique goes at the end of it than they were at the start, kind of thing. But like getting value and learning from that experience, like going through it, and like everyone who went through the lockdown, I would like to think that they've grown kind of as a person from what they've gone through. I agree.
Yeah. If they can step outside of the event that happened to them and go, oh no, I've actually, like, here's where I improved, or here's where I made some realizations about my life, or here's where I decided, oh, I've actually got to spend more time with my kids because I'm not doing that when I'm out of lockdown, or these types of like really big realizations that people can make during that time. I think massive growth there, growth potential. For sure,
definitely. And I think that that kind of idea that whatever you do, thinking back to like relationships as well, that side of things, a relationship is going to go one of two ways. You're either going to be together forever, or somewhere down the line it's going to end. And we kind of, myself included, like when a relationship ends or when something ends, it's like, what a waste of time.
Right.
It's like, oh, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did you not spend like, I don't know, a few years of your life actually experiencing some really cool things? Yeah. Have you grown as a person from that? And like, like, yeah, it will suck, and you're going to need to spend some time again, like accepting that, those feelings kind of make you feel pretty average. But then, rather than trying to move on straight away, it's like, well, what did I get out of this?
Yeah.
Like I learned some skills. I kind of, someone was willing to, like include me in their life to that point. And
Yeah.
I understood someone else like the most that I ever have.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it almost makes you immune to making the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Because whatever you choose to do is just what you're going to need to experience in life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I don't think we should ever really look back with regrets on anything about time wasted or, that time with that person. Like you said, it's like that's experience gained and things that you've done that you never would have done if you were just, by yourself or, if you never took that job or if you never, did that thing you wanted to do or whatever. Even if it turns out wrong, it's like these are all things that build character in our lives,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And it's part of the whole journey of this thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I love that, brother. So what are you up to now, man? So what are we doing? We're gaining? What are we up to?
Yeah. So, so like the first lockdown, I was actually heavier, but like going into the first lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
I had like, I think I had just really just gone a bit off the rails after Christmas, New Year kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and like if you'd seen me then, like it was like definitely not as lean
Gotcha.
as what I am now. I think I was about 4 kilos heavier then. So I guess I already broke the kilos if I stayed awake
totally.
yeah. But yeah, again, that lockdown period, like I was like, cool, like this is the time to cut down.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't. And then from there, kind of just, I guess it was more of like transitioning into like a little bit of an easier shred kind of thing.
Okay.
But still focusing on like lifting quite heavy. Like I watched a lot of stuff about like the body recomposition side of things and just like cycling calories, that kind of thing, diet breaks. That was something I've been playing around with quite a lot since then.
Nice.
But yeah, seems to be going pretty well.
Yeah. So you actually were doing a bit of a cut for a while.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
It was probably like, what I was playing with was like a 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
So it would be
great.
Like, so I think it would have been like a proper like 8 weeks or probably 6 weeks of actual like big
and a deficit. Yeah. It's almost like the quite relatively famous now Matador study.
Yeah.
Where they do the exact protocols, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
And just trying to assess, hey, what is the relevance and what is the benefit of that diet break period? So generally when I work with clients, like at some point, we'll usually do 7 to 8 weeks of deficit before we look at a diet break.
Yeah.
But then at some point, if we're continuously not seeing progress or they're just tanking and they're feeling like rubbish and their recovery's not there and their sleep's rubbish and all these types of things, we'll implement a 1 week diet break and we'll bring them back to maintenance. Which I try to give them that idea of, hey, we may take a diet break and expect that from the get-go. So it's not just like randomly, hey, we're going to do a diet break. And they're like, wait, what?
Because it's a bit of a hard sell sometimes.
It's hard sell. Yeah. It's like, hey, we're going to go back to eating a lot and not lose any weight.
Yeah.
And they're like, why?
And
you have to try and
usually
explain
when the
that.
progress is slowed down as well.
Exactly. So let's go harder.
Getting my result, and you're taking it back the other way. Like,
exactly. Yeah. But there's, and I think, there's so much discussion around the relevance of diet breaks and refeeds now in terms of like how they affect physiology. And, there's, I guess there's a lot of anecdote and there are studies on it now as well. But I think there still needs to be a lot more done on that. But I think the beneficial sides of doing it is like, hey, look, you take a week at maintenance, you bring your carbs up a lot, your training performance increases, your energy expenditure increases as a result of the increased intake. So you actually start burning more energy throughout the day, just unconsciously. And there's the potential benefit to your hunger and satiety hormones. So ghrelin being the hunger hormone coming down, leptin being satiety coming up. So you're actually having these almost reversal of some of the adaptations to dieting.
definitely.
I think those are the really big benefits. And of course, it's a psychological break, right?
Yeah,
if you've been dieting for 8 weeks straight and you're like, cool, I'm going to take 1 week at maintenance. I'm going to have 2 meals out with my friends. I'm going to have some more carbs and I'm going to train really hard. And it's great, but you have to go in there with the expectation of that's a potential possibility. And then the same thing goes with like, refeed days is a very similar thing. It's just a shortened version.
Yeah. And I think the thing with like a refeed day tends to, I guess the main downfall at the moment with the research would be like, is a single day of fat significant enough to have an effect on ghrelin and leptin? And although there may be anecdotal support that someone will get a greater result if you do give them a refeed day. It could be anything. Whether it's just the ability to adhere to the plan the other 6 days of the week, and that the fact that because they have something to look forward to, I guess, every week makes it easier for them to stick to. Although there is actually some sort of physiological benefit. But I definitely see kind of like the 1 week to even 2 week kind of diet break. Like now we're looking like a longer duration rather than just a short spike.
Right. How did you find that experience for you doing 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off? Like psychologically, could you suddenly revert back to a diet again after having 2 weeks off?
Honestly, I found getting back to the diet was fine. Actually sticking to the 2 weeks maintenance tended to be the hard part. Because I was kind of like, I'm eating more food anyway. Should I just eat even more?
I totally get that mindset, man.
I feel like my appetite was actually a lot higher eating at during the diet breaks than in the diet period itself.
It's like you open those floodgates, right? You give yourself permission to have, I mean, I like to work on the principle that you have permission to eat whatever food you want anyway, but it's almost like when you bring the calories up, you're like, oh, now I can fit in like this donut, or now I can fit in this extra bowl of cereal, and then it's like everything opens up, and there's that real challenge of the potential of overconsumption in a maintenance phase is no longer maintenance.
And I think that the fact that your food choices, knowing that you can eat more, well, now you're probably exactly what you said, going for the donuts and stuff. Foods are actually a little less volume, and so you may actually be eating less volume than when you're in a deficit, because when you're in a deficit, you're actively trying to get a lot of vegetables, a lot of foods that will fill you up, and even though you've got more calories, it's like, well, maybe you're actually not getting the same effect on, like, the stretch receptors in the stomach and that sort of things, or it's like your meals are smaller as well. So it's like, rather than sitting down to eat a meal, your donut's gone in like 20 seconds.
That's exactly right. It's so true. Like even you can see down there's that little box of like brownies. So one of our members, Beck, shout out to Beck, she baked me these brownies for my birthday, which is tomorrow.
Oh man!
These awesome vegan brownies, and she actually worked out the macros for me because she knows I'm right now I'm tracking. And they're 200 calories each, but you can see how small they are. They're like they're so small, right? So it's like you could eat 2 of those easily, but that's 400 calories. It's like if I'm on 1800, that's a big chunk of calories, right? So like, luckily I'm not on 1800 right now, but like, it's a case of it's volumetrics, right? And like you said, I think that becomes a real tricky one. I always find coming out of the diet, and this is the same for my clients, it's always the hardest part, is coming out of the diet and trying to. And that's why we tell them, hey, look, maintain the same structure of eating, the same pattern. If you're fasting, keep fasting, but we're going to increase the volume of the amount of food, but we're going to keep the same food types of food, right? Not just throwing in all these like calorically dense and low volume foods as soon as you get an opportunity to go to maintenance. So I think there's some real psychological kind of games that go around when you're looking at the 2 on 2 off protocol, and I guess it works for some and others potentially not.
Definitely.
I think if this is the thing, right? If there's physiological benefit to it, great, but if you can't even stick to that, then the benefits, there is no physiological benefit because you can't stick to it. So I think I'm actually really looking forward to my next cut in a way, because I'm going to do it completely different than I have in the past. So I've done too many cuts, and spent too much time lean. But when I've done it in the past, it's always been very strict tracking, 8 to 12 weeks, quite religious and quite aggressive.
right.
This time around, I'm actually really looking forward to doing this all by feel. So I'm actually going to track nothing. I'm going to, I always just keep an idea of protein in my mind, which I know I can get, within sort of 10 to 20 grams of.
Yeah.
And each day I'm going to eat based off that day's hunger signals, right? So being very in tune, very mindful of what my body's telling me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, being mindful that I have to hit a deficit. So I know the kind of feeling that I need to hit to ensure that I'm actually dropping body fat. And I know there's a certain level of suffering that I need to embrace during that time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, hey, look, if I wake up one day and I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't even feel like eating. Like I feel good. I'm busy. I'm doing stuff. Cool. I may not eat until like 3 p.m.
Yeah.
And then I'll have like 2 big meals that day and then I'm done. And then the next day I might be like, oh, I'm like super hungry.
Yeah.
I'll have a little bit more food. And so it might actually, and I'll have no idea of the calorie intake, but I'm actually going to go like, that low day might have been 1,000 calories. And then that high day might be like 2,400. And over the course of a week, I'll still hit a deficit based off my body weight scales, body weight weigh-ins. And I'm just going to go it like that. And I'm going to go as long as I want to go.
Yeah.
And in terms of the body fat percentage I want to get to, I'm just going to play it out by ear, man. I think it's going to be really interesting to do. And it may be relatively aggressive or it may be really slow. But I think I'll get great results doing it that way and just not relying so much on external metrics.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's really good.
But I wouldn't suggest many people do it that way.
No,
You need a
like,
lot of education or a lot of
exactly,
experience before you can do it like that.
Yeah, you'd need a lot of awareness as far as food goes.
Exactly.
Which I mean, you obviously have, which. Yeah, so I can see it really playing off.
Yeah,
And also, I guess that awareness, exactly what you said, the awareness that there's going to be a certain degree of suffering, So it's like not intuitive eating to the point where you're satisfied.
That's right.
It's intuitive eating knowing that there's going to be a part of you that isn't satisfied.
That's right. Yeah. It's eating a meal knowing that you're not trying to seek fullness from the meal. And you're potentially not even seeking satisfaction. You're like just eating that meal because okay, cool, it's got this amount of protein. I know I need to get this amount of like macros in terms of vegetables and things in and keep my volume up and keep me like relatively satiated. But, I think this is a big one when I work with any client on fat loss. It's like they're like, I just like food too much. I'm like, yeah, I think that's most of us, to be honest. And we just have to accept that if we want to get to this body composition goal and we want to get lean, and if this is actually really important to you, we do actually have to suffer. Like there is a whole and we're not in the environment that makes it easy to suffer. But that's why we have strategies in place, and that's why we have coaches to get you through that, right?
Exactly, I think the whole idea of and this isn't a stab at anyone, but like kind of someone who you're talking about, like their nutritional stuff like that, and the idea of eating healthy,
right?
Or and I think the knowledge that eating for health and eating for fat loss are or can be two very very different things. Like by definition, eating for health would be kind of maintenance in a way. Giving your body exactly what it needs to survive.
Yep.
And eating for fat loss, on the other hand, being the point where your body actually needs to kind of start fighting and tapping into those survival mechanisms in order to stop you from doing what you're trying to do.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, by nature of it being a fat loss diet is potentially not healthy.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're not giving your body what it needs. And so, obviously doing that very, very long term is unhealthy, but, what we want to do is understand that fat loss diets aren't sustainable. There's no such thing as a sustainable fat loss diet, because if you keep doing it for life, you sustain it, you will die because you'll have nothing left. So, it's a case of knowing that and going, okay, cool, this is a period of time where I'm going to be as healthy as possible, but I'm also going to focus on the outcome, which is the fat loss.
Yeah. And that's the thing for most people. Like being in a deficit will have a positive impact on a few health markers.
So true.
As well as just dropping down a little bit of adipose tissue.
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, like long term, there'll be some adverse effects down the line, but I mean, short term, kind of getting that bit off that you want. I think a lot of people could benefit from.
Yeah.
In a health point of view.
For sure.
Yeah.
Great, man. Well, we should probably do some questions.
Yeah, we probably should. Yeah.
Let's freaking do it, man.
How we gone on to the...
Yeah, dude. I mean, this is why I love these conversations, man, because you just sit and you talk, and that's all it needs to be, man.
Yeah.
But we've got some people that want some questions answered out here. So, dude, I'll hit you with the first one, eh?
Yep.
This is actually, this will be like probably a little fun one, actually. This is from Plant Life Chose Us. Shout out to you. She's very prolific on the Instagrams.
Very cool.
And we'll have to get her on the podcast at some stage.
Yeah.
She follows you, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to check her out.
Yeah.
What is your weirdest food hack when you're shredding?
Weirdest food
It's a good
hack.
one, actually.
Oh, man.
I'll hit you with mine.
Yeah.
I'll actually hit you with two. One was before I was vegan.
Yeah.
What I used to do was, because I was trying to do a very low carb approach to my fat loss, my first meal of the day was, it was always like a egg white omelet, right?
Yeah.
So just egg whites and a whole bunch of veggies. Yeah. But when I was at the gym and, working at the gym and I didn't have my fry pan to make an egg white omelet, I would literally just put all the veggies into a plastic container. Yeah. So like broccoli and heaps of spinach and capsicum. Yeah. And then I would just pour the bag of egg whites into the container and microwave it, nuke it. Yeah. And so it'd just be this white like gunk with all these veggies, and I just sprinkle on a whole bunch of seasonings, and it was like, it was like 200 calories. It was like super low, and it was like 30 grams of protein, and I'm just like, man, that's my first meal, and it was like super filling, but definitely like. And then I think when I went vegan, I tried to kind of replicate it with tofu,
right, and
kind of do like the morning kind of scrambled tofu with the veggies, which kind of worked, but probably didn't have really like the same effect that I wanted. And then these days, what I do, it's not super weird, but what I do, and I find it quite effective, is I like to have something relatively sweet and high protein before bed. It's always just been a habit of mine. I've always had protein before bed, like from when I started training in the gym, when I was reading bodybuilding magazines and they were saying casein before bed or cottage cheese before bed. Yeah. Ever since then, my habit for my entire life has been protein before bed. Yeah. So when I'm cutting nowadays, I make a little chia pudding. So I'll do like 100 mils of almond milk with 1 scoop of pea rice protein and 1 tablespoon of chia. And I just mix it up just with a fork. I shove it in the fridge for an hour. And then it kind of solidifies and the chia expands a little bit. And it's quite a filling little dessert that I have. Right. And I might just sprinkle some like blueberries on top or something. Yeah. And I have that before bed. And that's like really effective for me to hit the spot sweet wise, but I'm getting like 30 plus grams of protein. Yeah. It's a banger.
Man, this is funny because I'm like, listening to you, I'm like, man, like, could my shreds be that like easier? Because I don't think I have a weird hack or anything. I think you
just eat normally.
Yeah. When I get into kind of like shred mode, it's very structured, very robotic, and I think that part of me almost switches off the pleasure response I get from food, which sounds like, now thinking about it, I'm like, well, that's kind of like doesn't sound that great. But again, like I think that's why, like for me, it really is like scarcity of food at that point that like the enjoyment that I get after a show, for example, is potentially too much.
It's overload.
But I would say like, no, everything's really structured. Like I would kind of like get the same bolus of protein, like spread across the day. I will have like some carbs at night. Just it kind of gives me something to look forward to.
Yeah, of course.
Earlier on in the day. And I feel like I sleep better personally.
Yeah, man.
I'll go through like so much vegetables. It'll just be like bags and bags of frozen veggies.
Just stashing them away.
But
that's the thing though, man. It's like, I think like a lot of people end up going into a diet, and I think this comes from the If It Fits Your Macros crew, when you like, this was really big back in the day. I used to do the same thing, is like trying to make every meal as flavorsome as you can, but make it fit your macros. So you end up using like all these like really low fat sprays, and you end up using like all these low calorie sweeteners and dressings and all these like crazy little protein pancake mixes and protein mugs and all these crazy things to try and make everything taste amazing while you're dieting and hitting your macros. And it actually, you end up kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because every meal is this like taste explosion. So you're like, oh, I just can't wait to have that again. So all you're thinking about is the food. Whereas the further you go into a cut or into a diet, you actually need to start to reduce the pleasure of those foods. You do. You get into a robotic nature, and you go, all right, I'm just having my tofu, I'm having my tempeh with my broccoli and my pumpkin, and that's it. I'll put a little seasonings on it, but it's no longer about, hey, I want to really, really just enjoy the flavor of this meal. It's like, I'm eating this because I know it will get me to the result, and it's going to allow me to perform. But it no longer becomes this like constantly seeking satisfaction from your meals. And you have to make that mindset switch. And that's why like probably the most successful bodybuilders are the ones who can go into robot mode. And some of like the old school bodybuilding mentality of like clean eating really works, because it's like all they eat is like these 6 different foods, and that's it, and they just don't even think about other foods. Just that's it.
Again, it does wonders to like once you start eating more, like the next day after a show, like you're like, well, yeah, that's a lot of gastric distress. Like there's a lot of diversity that my body is just not used to.
This is true.
And I think actually the most enjoyable meal that I have during a prep would actually be like with protein powder. And just adding a little bit of water so it becomes a paste. So you have to eat it as kind of like a pudding. And then mixing like some strawberries or something in there as well. And it's, again, you get that sweet taste. You hit your protein. And like it lasts a while. I think it tastes real good.
It's that whole thing of like try not to drink your calories, instead eat them and like get that kind of satiety response from eating them.
I'd say that's probably my only hack. I don't think it's that weird. I see a lot of people doing it now as well.
Cool.
Kind of making these, like thick protein puddings.
Man. There's some wild hacks out there, man, but it doesn't have to be too crazy, guys. You can just keep it pretty simple, All right, have you got one, brother? You go, man.
There were quite a few.
All right, pick your fave.
Let's have a look. Let's start here. Plans to compete next year. So I was actually planning to compete this year. But for me, I kind of got to, even before all the COVID stuff happened, kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't think I'm going to make the improvements that I want to make if I was to kind of like start prepping again in June, for example. It would have been like maybe not even a year of kind of gaining. Given that I had gone through like wanting to cut and then wanting to gain again, wanting to cut, wanting to gain again, it just wasn't that productive. I don't think I quite recovered from the first lot of shows that I did, because it was kind of 2 back-to-back preps, as well as I would have liked to, and it kind of like just wasn't really the optimal place for me. So plan is to pretty much just keep what I'm doing now going until about June next year, and then do the shows that I was going to do this year, but next year. So they'll just be in October next year. So still a long way to go, which is cool.
Yeah, man. I think for natural bodybuilding, for most guys, they need to, not even for natural, for all bodybuilding, you need to spend considerable amount of time in your off season, doing the building, because I think it's Eric actually says this is it's a bodybuilding. It's like you have to do the building part where you go into an off season, you actually build the muscle, and it takes really, really long time. And then I think it's actually like with the whole COVID situation, a lot of shows being cancelled, and then like for some of my clients, their sports being cancelled and things like that. They're like, oh, the season's a write-off. I'm like, great, this is epic time to do off-season stuff, which is getting strong in the gym, putting on muscle mass, and performing at your best. And then when you come to season, whether it's bodybuilding or whether it's on the field, you're gonna be at your best, right? Use the time.
And the thing is, because like this is really my first off season in the sport of bodybuilding.
Wow.
Because like, I mean, my first show was August or September last year, Auckland Champs. And so like like since starting competing, this is the first kind of off season I have with feedback from judges, with things that I know what to work on, and with the coach as well,
Of course.
So yeah, like I feel like it's something that I've never really committed to before, and never really had direction in.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. It's always been like, oh, bulk for a little bit, not really like how I look, cut down again.
Yeah. So now you've got like a more of a I guess a long-term plan of attack and an outcome that you're going for, and kind of things to keep you progressing along the way. And you've got like, you're working with a coach at the moment. So you've got those, those check-ins and someone to keep you accountable and keep you focused. Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man, I'll do the next one for you. This one is from Cifra 555, I believe is how you say it. Say you're overweight and you wanted to shred. Is it better to focus on fat loss or muscle growth? So I'm assuming he means if you're overweight, you want to lose some weight, is it better to do fat loss on its own or do muscle mass instead?
I think I understand the question. Your training age will affect how effective this is, but and depending on how overweight you are. But honestly, my school of thought is whether you're gaining muscle or losing fat, the training portion of it should be much the same. Given that you should be trying to lift heavy, stress the muscles pretty well, and what else? Just lift frequently. You'd really focus on the weights, kind of not really changing like the fat loss, kind of like high reps kind of thing.
Yeah, man.
It's very, very, very dated, but I know that it's still still kind of out there.
Sure is.
But if like there's good research out there that kind of states that if you have a high level of body fat, that's still energy that is being used if you're in a deficit. If you're training hard enough to stimulate the muscles and get enough protein in your diet, there's no reason why there couldn't be some form of muscle growth there. And I think another big thing that could contribute is just your personal values. Are you, again, depending on how overweight you are, like, are you okay with that? And like, are you more motivated by just being big and being strong and just like smashing it in the gym? Or are you okay with being a little hungry, and really like trying your best to milk every workout as best you can to keep the muscle there while you get that body fat off?
Totally. Yeah, that's great. Having that like context there of like what do you want out of it, and what values do you have around your image and your body composition, and is it really important for you to actually be lean, or can you just build muscle and be happy with that and just long term be a heavier guy? Or I guess going back to how you started it, and I think I would answer this as like just to say do both, because if you are overweight, and like you said, depending on how overweight you are, in all likelihood when you cut, so you should aim to be in a calorie deficit, so you're losing a certain amount of body weight per week, but train like you're trying to build muscle. And crush it, and you're likely going to put on some muscle tissue, and as that body fat comes off, that physique will show itself off beautifully. But it's a case of how much do you have to lose and how long have you been training. If you've been training a very long time and you're still relatively overweight, you may not be able to put on the same amount of muscle tissue as someone who's brand new to training and they're overweight. So, but I would say do both, and if not, decide how much it means to you to be lean, and then potentially prioritize being lean while training like you're trying to grow muscle mass. And then, once you've lost the body fat that you want to, go back to maintenance and build some muscle mass. It's nuanced there, but I think people potentially overthink this one, and think that it's either or. And a lot of the time, for people that are quite overweight, it can be both.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Man, I think we covered that pretty good, man. Have you got one for us?
Yeah. What did you want to be when you were small? I'm still small.
Yeah, I never graduated this small crew.
Oh. That's
Wow.
I don't know. I think that I actually don't remember at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it would have been a whole lot of different things. Like everyone wants to be like a firefighter at some point, I think. These kind of like, I guess for what is seen as a very noble profession kind of thing.
Right.
Or like, like a spy or something like that. Like
Yeah,
these things
yeah,
in movies and all that. No,
yeah.
I don't know.
So it's like these like macho professions where it's all,
exactly. Yeah. But no, I think it's so like there's been so much happening in life in between like then and now that it's just like, I don't know. Yeah. Do you remember what you wanted to be?
I do. I mean, I think for the longest time I always wanted to do two things. Yeah. One was to become a police officer.
Yeah.
And the second was to join the army.
Cool.
And so my whole plan out of school was I'll join the army and I'll do that for 2 years and then I'll become a police officer.
Right.
So I did that. I joined the army and I did 5 years and then I became a personal trainer. So the police officer thing never really happened.
Right.
But I think those were my two main ones. And for the longest, I can remember way back, it's just like I was always interested in military history and war movies and things like this. And it never left me, and so I had to join the army. I just had to do it. I had to have the experience, and then I guess things change once you get a little bit older and you realize what you want to do, what you really value, and
definitely. Yeah, I think actually thinking about it now, I mean, like I would have wanted to be a musician, because I actually spent 2 years over in Los Angeles, studying, working in the industry there, and that was kind of meant to be the big dream.
Oh wow, dude! I forgot you did that.
Yeah. So I almost forgot
was
that I did it as well.
What were you? What were you playing? Instruments?
So like I played bass.
Oh yeah.
And so
slap at the bass.
Yeah.
I like it.
So that was like kind of the big like passion for me for kind of growing up, because I mean I started playing piano when I was 4 years old kind of thing.
Yeah, so you've always had that.
Yeah, my brother's a musician, and like I think that I always looked up to him, and seeing that, seeing him kind of do it, I was like, like this is, I admired him, and so I was like, this is something that I want to do as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something super sick about the creative arts, and and that, I mean, to be honest, because I think most kids, I know that's probably a massive generalization, a lot of kids do grow up playing an instrument at some point, and I grew up playing drums, and right until 2 years ago I was playing, and I think a massive dream for me for the longest time was to tour the world with a massive band, and to have that on the road vibe, and when I talk to friends who have done that, I'm like always like, yo, what was it like? Like you're on the road and like playing shows in different cities and stuff, and I think the novelty wears off really quickly. But I always wanted to experience that. That was one of those big things. Were you in a band in LA, or were you just doing session musician?
Yeah, it was mostly session work.
Yeah.
Like I had like kind of a core group that I would be with most of the time. But yeah, a big part of it was just kind of the session kind of stuff.
Cool, man. You still jam now?
No,
Yeah.
actually not really much at all.
Yeah.
I think not like, I don't think my passion for it kind of died, but there were definitely some very kind of like stressful moments for me that almost I don't know, how would I describe it? Just kind of make it really difficult to kind of get back into it. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Interesting,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. All right, you got another one there, bro?
Yeah.
You got heaps.
Yeah,
Get a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Let's rock them
Let's
off.
go with some actual vegan themed ones.
All right.
Main protein sources. Yeah. Might as well.
Good one.
Yeah. So, tofu is a big one. We also have like the sun-fed chicken we were talking about. Is probably like the leanest. I think it would be because it's pretty much just pea protein and a little bit of like pumpkin starch in there and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it would be the leanest, like non-shake, non-powder kind of protein.
Yep.
But like I always find that I'll go out to. It's not exactly cheap, but I always find it worth it. Like I'll go out, buy a pack, and it's like 300 gram box with like 36 grams of protein per 100 grams. So what you're getting like 108 grams of protein, and like I'll finish it in a day. Like I'll have every intention to be like, cool, like this will be like my, my meal across like 1, 2, 3 days.
You do it for 3 days. Exactly. 100 grams a day.
Yeah. And then like as soon as I get home with that box, I'm like, I'll make something now.
Wow,
and, like,
just smash
next
it.
meal after that, I'm like, I'll use it again.
Okay, yeah.
And it's just gone in a day.
Yeah,
so,
dude.
Yeah. I think I need to accept that that's how long it's going to last me and just plan for that.
Totally. You must be flavoring it really well.
I just think it goes well with so much stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the listeners, sun-fed chicken is a New Zealand product. I don't know if it's in Australia yet.
I think it
is.
I think I've seen it.
Okay.
Like on the Vegans in Australia page a couple times, yeah.
And it's quite revolutionary in terms of like they've really nailed the texture. It's like a really stringy kind of chickeny texture. And the macros on it are fantastic, as Chris said. But yeah, you do need to like give it some flavor, I guess, as well. Like it's a pea protein.
Yeah. But apart from that, it's the classic kind of tofu.
Yeah.
TVP, like sometimes.
Yep.
I've had really good ones that seem to be more of like a flaked texture when it's dry, and then the other ones which are like the chunks, and the chunks I always find they get real spongy.
Yeah.
But the flakes tend to just like cook really well and just soak in and be little pieces.
Totally.
Of just little chewiness.
It's like mince. It's like ground mince.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like protein and carbs 1 for 1 kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
Yeah. I'm a little bit late to like the edamame spaghetti and like black bean spaghetti kind of train, but like, that stuff is great.
It is
like,
great.
It's like a 1-to-1 ratio of protein to carbs, and the cool thing is it's actually like a spaghetti substitute.
Yeah.
It's like the idea of like, take rice out of your meal and put in like beans or something, and you're like, beans aren't rice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but being able to like replace kind of like wheat spaghetti, which has like 60 grams of carbs to like 12 grams of protein.
Yeah, that's right.
To like 40 to 40, it's like, that's huge.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that'd be pretty good. But then, I'm really into macromic protein.
Okay, yeah. I've been having that lately too, man. Yeah.
Just the peanut protein in it.
Yes.
Tastes great.
It's a real different flavor, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I've noticed it because I got 2 flavors and I just finished 1 pack and I went to the second one and I was like, oh, it actually tastes really similar because it has that peanut protein flavor. So it's like a peanut powder, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely always go back to my prana, but the macromic is a nice little one to throw in there as a bit of a switch up for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I would say like top 3 protein sources for me currently would be like definitely a protein powder is always a top one for me. Like I'll have that twice a day, and then it's usually probably it's tofu more than tempeh, just because tofu is a little bit cheaper and easier to get, whereas tempeh I have to go to specific places to get it. And then I would probably say I probably get a decent amount of wheat protein.
Oh yeah.
So I'll make seitan like once a week. So I'll have that a decent amount.
Yeah, I've seen that on your like story and
stuff.
I just don't have I've never made it.
Well, that's the thing. Like I was the same. Like for the first probably 2 years as a vegan, I was like, oh yeah, I should really do seitan. I've always been like, oh, it looks really hard and it's in the too hard basket. And then I just one day I was like, you know what? and at the same thing in New Zealand, it's hard to find vital wheat gluten to make it, right? But I found a website in New Zealand that ships it at like a kilo bag, way cheaper than you could get at say like Bin Inn.
Right.
And I was like, I'm just gonna make this stuff, and got it, and basically it's actually like really, really easy to make.
Cool.
I haven't really mastered how to flavor it amazingly well yet. Like I've just kind of been having it as like a base, and then I'll put like a dressing or something on it, or just have it with something else that's really flavorful.
Yeah.
But for macro wise, it's amazing. Like it's so dense, full of protein, and if you can tolerate the gluten side of things, it's a go-to. So I'll have that a decent amount. And it's definitely going to be a go-to for me when I go back into a cut, along with like the black bean and edamame spaghettis and fettuccines and that, because they're both really high protein, satiating, low calorie options. Yeah, man. Great. Good. Hit us with another one.
Whoa. All right. So you had protein. What else? Oh, recommended supplements.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go. There you go. Go for it, man.
Oh,
what are you taking?
So supplements. I like to take an algae oil, an algae supplement. So for the omega-3 side of things, creatine. I guess more performance-sized creatine.
Yep.
Yeah, without a doubt, kind of like one of the most studied sports supplements out there, and shows pretty significant, findings of increasing strength and in turn increasing hypertrophy.
100%.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. What else? So honestly, like something that I've actually been doing a lot more now is intra-workout kind of nutrition. And this kind of popped up on like the Eric Helms podcast.
Yeah, I'd like to bring this one
the
up.
The idea of BCAAs and EAAs.
Yeah.
And like there wasn't really like a sure answer at the end of it, which is like kind of which is fair, like because and for me the big thing though is that like if there's a chance, of this kind of like helping a little bit, then like and I have the means to use it and purchase it and that side of stuff, then I'll give it a go, kind of thing. So,
if you have the finances to do it, you have the means to do it, and you're in the business of like winning shows, which you are. Like if you want the 0.5%, like it's like, well, if there's a chance, then great, right?
Yeah. And so kind of intra for me would be like some creatine, some EAAs, a salt blend, iodized table salt and Himalayan salt, and then some carbohydrate powder, actually.
Epic.
So either maltodextrin or clusterdextrin. And that'll kind of just be what I sip on during a workout.
It's a very smart intra-workout.
Yeah,
you got the salt in there too. The sodium is very smart.
Your carbs.
You got your carbs. You got your amino acids.
Yeah.
And your creatine.
For me, it's just like
the absorption of that would be so good, actually. Like because you're absorbing the creatine and the carbohydrates really well through increasing the sodium content and wow, man.
Yeah, so that's kind of like what I'll go to during a workout.
How much carbs would be in there?
50 grams at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And probably about 15 to 20 grams EAAs.
Yeah, it's a decent hit. I think when it comes to EAAs or BCAAs, it's like you have to just understand why you're taking them. So many people just buy them because of marketing.
Yeah.
And even members and clients here, I see them taking them post workout. I'm like, you could just have a protein shake.
Yeah.
Or you could just go home and have your eggs that you're going to have or whatever they're having, but like you don't need to be taking the supplement. But then like there's certain nuances where I do recommend it, and we discussed that in that podcast with Eric. But yeah, potentially in saying that, like in the past I have bought them on a regular basis because I like the flavors and I like to drink something during my workout that has flavor. So sometimes I'll go through periods of doing that. But it's not like, oh, I need to do this because otherwise my muscle is wasting away.
Exactly.
And it's just not, I mean, we covered that in detail, but it's just not going to happen to the extent. like Eric alluded to, your amino acids it's a bank, right? Yeah. There's a pool of it, and you can pull from it when you need it, and you're constantly resupplying it. Yeah. And if you go 2 hours, 3 hours between your pre-workout meal and your post-workout meal without any amino acids, it's like you're fine. Like there's nothing going wrong there, But no, that's cool. That's really interesting, man.
Yeah. And then apart from that, like electrolytes, calcium, magnesium, that kind of stuff. What else? D3.
Yeah, I was going to say you're taking a D3
as well.
Yeah. Do you take that through the summer?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that'll be
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Doesn't need to be extensive.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, I think back in the day it was like I was trying to have all these crazy subs and buying everything, and you just got to keep it simple these days. I think you just you look at, okay, what's going to give me the biggest bang for my buck? Yeah. Performance wise, caffeine, creatine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, caffeine as well.
Yeah, of course. Caffeine, creatine, like number 2 performance supplements. Take those all the time, no matter what. I mean, unless you want to reduce your caffeine intake for whatever reason, fantastic.
Yeah.
For health, for a vegan, potentially your omega-3. Yeah. If you really want to have that safety net of ensuring that you are getting all your EPA and DHA, if you're not consuming a lot of plant-based omegas, or just really overdose on the plant-based omegas, you need to take a fair amount.
Like flaxseed and hemp, like you just need
flaxseed, hemp, and walnut, and you need to take a lot.
I'm very like high carb. Like I don't have a lot of oils and fats.
Yeah.
So, for me, the algae oil is just kind of like an easy spike of that.
This has been coming up quite a bit in my most recent posts and my discussion with Danny Lynn as well about omega-3s and the fact that a lot of the benefits of why we promote taking omega-3s, like even with my studies with Mac Nutrition Uni, omega-3s keep coming up all the time for sure, is basically of helping with all these different health risk factors. And Danny brought up a really good point. It's like, I think it was on Danny's discussion with Alan Flanagan on his podcast about the fact that potentially, because vegans are already mitigating so many of those health risk factors by having a vegan diet, you're no longer having such huge risk for hypertension and cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes and things, or even like dementia. You potentially don't need the intake of omega-3s that is promoted for omnivores. Who, and I have to put in the caveat there, that's for, I guess, unhealthy omnivores. If you're having a bit of animal products in your diet and you're still predominantly plant-based and you're having a whole food, healthy diet, then, you may be in the same position as the vegan in terms of the fact that you may not need as much omega-3s as we originally thought.
Yeah, but if you're getting all those, like a lot of processed kind of like, processed foods and stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
But as a safety net, you can take it, but we just don't have the data there to say whether vegans absolutely need it or not. So if you just want to have that safety net, like for myself personally, I actually only take an algae-based sup for 1 to 2 cycles a year. So I'll buy a product and I'll use it for the 30 or 90 days, whatever, how much is in it.
Yep.
And then after that time, I will just, leave it for a while, usually just because I forget to buy some more. But, and who knows, to what extent I may see adverse side effects from not having it, but to this date I haven't. So I'm going to continue doing that, and I just ensure that I do include a decent amount of ALA products in my diet each day. But we do need more data on omega-3s for vegans specifically. But I think it's like a safety net supplement.
Exactly.
Take it. I hope prices are slowly coming down. I'm not too sure where they're at, but
there's I think the one that I usually go to is MyProtein.
Cool.
They take a while to ship.
Ship it from the UK?
Yeah. It takes a while to get here, but like they often have like big sales and stuff. So it works out pretty decent. Yeah. For like a 180 cap kind of capsule bottle. Yeah. Which again lasts a while.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Half a year. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it really, and of course, like you said, D3 100% in the winter. Like I take it through the winter, but I don't take it in the summer because me and Trooper are out like twice a day, Usually in the summer, it's my shirt off the whole time, and I'm just getting so much vitamin D. It's like, I do not need to take a supplement. But in the winter, for sure, man, we're covered up in clothing the whole time. We're indoors 99% of the time. So, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Should we do another one?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Do you have any more? Or?
Nah, man, you go for it.
All right.
I've got a few, but I won't. I want to hear your ones.
When did you go vegan? 2017. You?
2017. Jeez. I think it was beginning of 2000. Wait, what are we in now? 20. Yeah, beginning of 2018. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think mine was towards the end of 2017. Yeah. Yeah. Are you a qualified PT or do you just train yourself? Yep, qualified PT.
Yeah.
Yourself?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a big one, man. I think.
Advice for someone doing their first show.
Oh, that's you, man. Go for it.
So I would say, this depends on like what kind of person you are. I'd say if you're really like goal driven and goal motivated, like book the show and just do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's gonna kind of like get you there.
Yep.
But like my personal, again, this isn't that's what I did. Like I was kind of like, cool, I'm doing this show, let's prep. I would say to take a bit out of the stress out of it, what you could do is just prep as if you were going to do a show. And when you're kind of like at a condition of like 6 to 8 weeks out, look at the calendar and see what's going on around there.
Yeah.
You know, and then be like, cool, well, this is the show that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is like, lock yourself into a show at 16 weeks out and then at like 6 weeks out, just stress that you're behind and all this kind of stuff, because it's going to make the prep, probably like less effective. Like you're not going to get as good of a result probably. And it's going to be real stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you also recommend that if someone is going to do this show, they do more than one in that season? Because I think this is quite common, like, is to, you're getting down so lean. If you're at that body fat level, you might as well do like more than do your first show at like a little bit heavier, like just a little bit fluffier. And then your second show, you've had like another maybe 4 weeks of dieting. And then you're even more shredded and you do that second show. Or do you think, hey, just do the one and then be out?
Yeah, and like the thing is that because I only have the experience that I have is still very limited.
Yeah.
But from what I've talked to other people about, I think that there definitely is value in getting a lot of show experience.
Yeah.
Early on, but then from there you kind of want to get the experience on stage and then focus on. I mean, if it is something that you want to do more of in the future, then it's like, cool, I've done my shows, let's take some time off and work on those weak points.
Yeah.
Because I think that, the funny thing is that, especially for people starting out, and this is advice that a lot of coaches will give, is that what you don't want to do is just do back-to-back shows year in, year out, because you're not going to see as much change, but there are people who will have like a good maybe 3 months of shows, and then they'll take like a lot of time off to kind of build that up.
You might like take 2 or 3 years off.
Yeah, but I would say if there are shows that are really close together, then by all means, make the most of it, get as much experience as you can, and then see where you can go from there.
I've got a follow-up on this actually, is given, like, from your perspective, given the potential downstream psychological effects of competing in terms of the obsessive tendencies and the potential for disordered eating, what drives you to continue to do it, knowing that there is those very real risks of eating disorder tendencies from bodybuilding? And we see it all the time with people who step on stage and they do a show and then they're suffering afterwards because they just can't get their relationship with food back, and it's binge cycles and things like that. Yeah. What's the drive?
I think for me, I've always had a pretty unhealthy relationship with food. Honestly, now it's definitely in a better place than it has been in the past.
Yeah.
I think the drive for me, and again, this comes back to kind of the amount of value that I put into looking a certain way. And so growing up, I was bullied at high school, for being overweight and also for being Chinese.
Yeah.
And that's just how things were. But it definitely shaped my values because it essentially told me that I was worth less because of the way that I looked, solely because of the way that I looked. And so, whether I like it or not, I do put a lot of weight into looking a certain way and feeling more comfortable about the way that I look. And I think that bodybuilding has been the first thing that's kind of turned it into something a little more positive. It's all in the past. It's always been, how far away can I get myself from being that fat Asian kid?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, I'm not running away from something negative anymore. I'm actually working towards just improving every day.
Totally.
And another thing that is interesting is that, like, what we talked about at the start, kind of the idea of kind of chasing a destination, there is no end goal for this. It's like, I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I'm like, I'm happy. Like, this physique is enough.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a way, like, if you said to someone like, you're never going to achieve that goal, it's like, it could be very defeating.
Totally.
But then, again, the way that I think about it is kind of like, or the way that I've come to think about it now is that, like, today I'm exactly where I can be. There's nothing I can do that's going to change this moment. But tomorrow I can be a little bit better.
Love that.
And then when tomorrow comes, I'm exactly where I am. And then the next day I can be a little bit better. And for me, it's like, that's just kind of like come to be what I understand my meaning of life to be.
Yeah, I love that, man.
Like every day is exactly where I can be. And all I can do is just hope to be, or try to be, put in the time to just be a little better the next day.
It's a great way to look at life, man.
Yeah.
How much of your drive to compete, though, do you think is, given your experiences of bullying in high school based on your image, how much do you think is driven by the value of gratification from other people now that you are the big bodybuilder Chinese guy? Like, you're no longer this overweight Chinese kid. You're like the shredded vegan bodybuilder who gets stopped in gyms to say hello.
Yeah.
Now you've got that level of motivating factor of like, oh, people value me more because of my image now.
Yeah, that's again, I think it's hard to say like exactly because whether I like it or whether I want to accept it or not, like, there has to be a little bit of that.
Of course.
I think that
it's just human nature.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if I was to say no, I don't care about
the
kind of the art of not really caring about what other people think. Although it sounds like a very cool thing, I think that it's just not.
It's not reality.
It's not reality.
Yeah,
and I think that there's definitely going to be a part of me that feels some sort of gratification or validation when I get compliments and stuff like that about my physique and all that kind of stuff. But I think that especially over the past probably four years, I think that understanding and appreciating myself has really just been has come to the forefront and been the primary driver of a lot of decisions that I make. It's such a tricky subject, man, because we all do value validation from other people based off our image, and that's based off us growing up in a society that tells us that people should be valued more because of their look. Are they the ideal physique? And so when we do start to change our body, people start to give us validation and they say, you're looking great, you're looking better. And it's like, better? Like, what was I, like, was I not of value before? And I've talked about this with people in the gym here, when the people start to talk to them more when they've lost weight. It's like, really? Like, that's a thing. And that's how ingrained this thing is, this belief system that people are of more value when they're at a more ideal body type, which is
it's horrific, and it's a hard thing to work through. It's just where we're living at in the modern society, and we have to pull ourselves up on that.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Dude, should we do a couple more quick fires?
Yeah.
Just some like one word answers.
Some quick fires.
Yeah, man. Let's just rock through a couple.
Can we hit a sesh sometime, bro?
Yo.
Yeah.
Dude, lock it in.
Easy.
Show them how you train, man.
Yeah. Where's some favorite place to eat? Whoa.
Worldwide or
I don't know.
anywhere? Jeez, man, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a single place, but dang. No, it's a hard one. I don't know if you saw on Instagram, one of my clients, Angel, she's an amazing cook, and she has her vegan catering business, Luntian, and it's like it's advertised as vegan Filipino food, but she does so much experimentation elsewhere. But she did a vegan Korean fried chicken for my partner's birthday over the last weekend. It was incredible.
Wow.
Like, it was so good.
Amazing. I want to try that.
Yeah. It was like, it was actually amazing. Like she makes her own seitan from scratch and stuff, and it was the most like stringy seitan that I've ever had. It was just it was really good. So shout out to her.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, like, this is the hardest question in the world, because I mean I've traveled to some spots that, you know, around the world that have insane vegan food, but I don't know if this is like my most favorite place in the world to eat, but it's a spot that I continuously go back to as soon as I get to Melbourne, and it's this little side street away from the main railway station in Melbourne. Once you come off the plane and you catch the train in, and it's called, what is it called? I think it's like Superfood Bar or Superfood Me or something. It's this tiny little place, but I love breakfast foods, and they do the most amazing smoothie bowls, like best smoothie bowls I've had, and the most amazing bagels. And I'll go there and I'll get a smoothie bowl and a bagel, and they're like these loaded bagels, and it's just unbelievable flavors, and it's this tiny little place, and the lady there's super nice, and I don't know, it's just this like ritual thing of when I go to Melbourne, I go to this spot, and I mean, it's simplistic and it's beautiful food, but I just love it, man.
Yeah. Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
I love Melbourne. I haven't been. When did I go last? 2019, 2018, I think.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, but love.
Yeah, there's some spots to eat there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's hard. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? Again, like, these are questions that have to have a single answer, but they're not really quick fire, are they?
That's incredibly tough one to answer.
Like food being like an entire meal or just one item.
I think a meal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know.
Man, like, because again, like, I can't forget that, like, my goal is to, you know, like,
exactly.
Yeah, like, be able to bulk and shred.
There's so much nuance to it, because it's like, are you thinking about health, long-term health?
Yeah.
Or are you thinking about just enjoying that meal every single time?
Like, honestly, like, I think this is kind of cheating, but I would say, like, pizza. Because, like, what defines a pizza? You've got, like, the carb base, and you just chuck whatever you want on there.
Yeah.
If you're in prep, like, your carb base could literally be like a tiny pita bread. And you just have, like, a pile of veggies on there.
This is so true.
Yeah.
You could change it up however you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was just going to say pizza. That was fully, like, cheating.
That is so true.
Just be like stir fry.
I think if it was like, if I had to choose like a single ingredient food,
okay.
It'd potentially be oats.
Okay.
Because you can have them hot, you can have them cold. Even better if I could put the protein powder in there. Yeah. But it's also got like some really good nutrients in there that would potentially sustain me long term and keep me full if I was like, you know, if I'm trying to survive and I'm just trying to survive on oats. Yeah. It's actually like one of those foods that should potentially be a staple in most people's diets, I think.
Yeah. Cool.
It's a hard question, man.
Yeah, it is.
Or I would just say ice cream. But then I'm sure but you can't. I don't want ice cream for every meal in winter. That's an issue. Yeah. Ice cream is my jam though.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely too much of a good thing.
Yes. Like you of Little Island. So for the listeners, Chris had
Little Lato.
Little Lato, yeah. My friend's gelato store here in Auckland, and Chris goes and buys like the plate of gelato, like 4 flavors, and polishes the thing off.
Well, it's like the same price as getting like two cups,
Two
like
cups.
2 single flavor cups. So just like,
get a whole
get
plate of
the
it.
whole take home tub, but eat it there. That was really good though. That stuff's great.
It's my favorite ice cream gelato in the world,
Yeah,
man.
I can
Little
see why.
Lado, shout out.
Yeah, I can see why. Glass full or glass empty?
What?
I mean, I assume like glass half full or glass half empty.
Yeah, was the question glass full or glass empty?
Yeah, like,
Well, why would you
what
ever
are you?
choose empty? What do you mean?
Like,
it's supposed to
are
be
you
glass
someone who-
half.
Yeah, glass half full, glass
but they
half
just
empty.
forgot that part of the.
Yeah, I guess glass half full, glass half empty.
Oh, it would always be glass half full.
Yeah.
Wait, that means you're more positive, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
I always
yeah.
get confused with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, glass half full.
Glass half full. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It's going back to that gratitude thing, right?
Yeah.
There's always something we can be thankful for, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna cheat and say neither. I don't care about the contents of my glass. I care about is filling it up a little bit more. each
Fill it
day.
up. Oh, look at you, man.
Oh man, I don't know any other quickfire ones.
Let's do
Yeah.
that last that one you. I want to answer that one. I want you to answer it as well. That one you brought up before. That's our last question, eh? The one about the sets, heavy weights.
yeah.
What was the question? Can you remember?
Yeah. Hang on, I did write it down.
Something around
I
like
couldn't see it. Oh yeah, how important are heavy sets in bodybuilding? 4 reps and under.
yeah. That's a great
I'd assume
question.
like a 4 rep max and
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to say. Like if we look at recent, the most looked at study on hypertrophy at the moment, I think Brad Schoenfeld.
Yeah,
kind
for
of like
sure.
the mechanisms of muscular hypertrophy. You've got your mechanical tension being a factor, muscle damage, metabolic stress, these kind of things. So if you think about like, a really heavy set provides a lot of mechanical tension.
That's right.
Probably not a lot of muscle damage. Probably not a lot of metabolic stress either.
That's right.
But I wouldn't say it would be something that you do very regularly if the goal is hypertrophy.
Yeah.
But I would say that it could have its place. Yeah.
I think here's the deal with like those lower rep ranges, 5 and under, for specifically hypertrophy, is that when doing those sets, they're so systemically taxing.
Yeah.
They just, they've really, I mean, if you're lifting 4 reps, you're not lifting like a lightweight, you're lifting something very heavy by nature, right?
90%.
Which if you're doing a barbell back squat, a bench press, a deadlift, a row, whatever, under 4 reps, there's so much fatigue created by that you likely won't be able to get to the necessary volumes that you need to get to for optimal muscle growth. So volumes being the number of sets you can do. So like, say you're trying to do like 8 sets of 4 to try and hit a certain amount of volume for that muscle group. Imagine doing all of those with really, really heavy weight on a barbell movement. It's just going to beat you up. Whereas if you were to say instead, maybe you were trying to as well, maybe prioritize a little bit of strength training. You want to be a little bit more specific to some of those barbell lifts. You could do 1 to 2 heavy sets with that, under 5 rep range. And then the remainder of that muscle group, you can do in the 6 to 20 rep range, which is what I would recommend for hypertrophy, without a huge amount of fatigue that is created by these really, really heavy sets. Because it's the whole, and Mike Isotel has popularized the idea of stimulus to fatigue ratio. Yeah. It's like if you're trying to grow a specific muscle, doing 4 reps on it, there's a lot of fatigue, not a lot of stimulus. Yeah. So we have to be aware of that and say, what's going to be best for my goal? Yeah. But then at the same time, if you're asking that kind of question, you potentially value some form of heavy weight training in your program.
Yeah. And if that helps you adhere to a program, then maybe. Like perhaps if you were doing like working with a weight that's maybe your 6 or 7 6 or 7 RM.
Yes.
And you're only doing 4 reps of it kind of at the start of a workout. Like it's still going to be heavy.
Yeah.
But you're not kind of really going to failure on it.
That's right.
And then you can be like, cool, like next week I'll do, put a little bit up. Maybe when the RPE starts to get closer to that like starts to feel more like a 4-rep max, then it's like, cool, like let's strip this back again.
Yeah.
At least you've got like an idea that, like I am getting stronger, and I get to come into the gym and start with something super heavy, or relatively heavy, and then like without taxing yourself that you can't do much else volume on the other stuff.
Yeah.
Like perhaps that could work well.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, again, I think adherence to enjoying your program while still getting volume in.
That's right.
Will be kind of the number one.
Yeah, that's right. If your goal is hypertrophy, number one, it shouldn't be the majority of what you do. But if you love to train like that, definitely include it in the program because it will help you adhere to it and help you enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Exactly.
Good, man. Smash that one.
Cool.
All right, my man. Well, this has been a really enjoyable podcast, bro.
Yeah. Talked about a lot of different
We
stuff.
covered some subjects, man. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed that podcast with Chris, now known as shredded.tofu on Instagram. Go check him out. Go give him a like and follow. Be sure to share this one on your story. Take a screenshot and let us know how you found it. Let us know how you liked the question and answer format, and maybe we can do some more of these in the future. Thanks for coming out, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.